Enter Talk Radio, you're in to all things music.
Welcome to the Changing Stage, music gear talk from the manufacturers and musicians who define the biz. Here's your host, Florentino Buenaventura.
Yeah, folks, it's been a minute. This is the Changing Stage show on Enter Talk Media, and my name is Florentino Buenaventura, as you all well know. And missed you. We didn't get you in last week, but we saved a much more special one for today. We've got Bobby Lyle here, and he is online with us, and we're going to talk a little bit about his illustrious career as well as all of the great things that he has going on. Say hello to everybody, Bobby.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for having me on your show, by the way.
Oh, well, hey, our great pleasure, man. It's a big honor for us to have you. And big shout out to Kayleen for making this happen, and our good friends, Bunny Brunel. You know, this is it's kind of a family of musicians that we have that we're able to talk to, and you know, we were able to converse like family. So, you know, hey,
yeah,
man, let's jump into it. You know, you were connected to me by Kayleen Peoples, flute player as well as singer, and she is the editor and chief of Agenda Magazine. So many different things. She connected you because you guys are doing a show tomorrow with Bunny and a number of great players for tomorrow. Let's just jump into that. Tell us about the show at the Catalina Club.
Well, Bunny Brunel is going to be there with his fusion group, and they're going to open up the evening's festivities, and then I will come on afterwards with a trio featuring drummer Oscar Seaton and bassist Kevin Brandon, and we'll be doing some original stuff. I'll probably do a little bit of solo piano as well, and we'll just have a musical good time.
Well, that sounds great. Now, is this a combination of tunes that you've done throughout your career, or is this a certain period of time that you're focusing in on?
I kind of pulled a few things from different albums from different eras, but it's I guess I would call it a musical mixed bag of things, because it'll include stuff like Timbuktu, which was on my Power of Touch album, and Poinciana, a song I've always loved from when I first heard Mr. Ahmed Jamal do it. So we're going to include that on the program, and some straight ahead bebopish, a tune called Blues for Dexter Gordon, and a Sade cover called Sweetest Taboo.
Wow. Okay.
So it'll be a nice variety of grooves, you know.
It's a great collection. You know, because these kind of very obviously it's going to be your sound, but how did you? What was the process that you did to say this is the music I want to present tonight? Because you have a vast collection, and I would imagine it's hard to nail those down for just one night of tracks.
Well, it's funny because when you first come on the scene, I can remember all the way back to my first album, The Genie, and when you go out and start to do shows behind that, it's very easy to make a set list because you're just dealing with that one album.
Yeah.
That one collection of tunes. But then as your career expands, it gets more difficult because now you're drawing from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different projects. And so, you know, I have to consider the environment, the particular club that I'm working at, the musicians that I'm working with. So I want to present the best thing for what that situation is and for the people that I'm playing with.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I make my choices based on those things.
Yeah, no, I get that. In fact, yeah, I guess you worked a bit with Al Jarreau from what I was reading here. And I heard that Al Jarreau used to keep a set list from every location that he played at, so that when he would go back to that particular location, he would make sure that he would throw some things in there that he didn't do from before. So I don't know if, you know.
Yeah, that's the other consideration. You don't want to keep repeating yourself in the same market. So yeah, I factor that into the equation as well. You know, let me do some tunes that this particular crowd hasn't heard before, and but yeah, I enjoyed my time being musical director with Al Jarreau, because he was like a musician himself who just happened to sing.
Oh yeah,
and he could make all the instrument sounds, and his repertoire of tunes was just so colorful and so much fun to play.
And he's the biggest sweetheart. You know, he was the biggest sweetheart on the planet. I love that.
Oh, he was just the nicest guy, the nicest person you would ever want to meet. You know, and he didn't have an ounce of I'm a star or being pretentious. None of that was anywhere near a part of his personality. He was just down to earth. He was dedicated and committed to the music, and everyone who went to his shows received that firsthand view of how much he loved what he was doing.
Yeah, yeah, and a great testament to choice of musicians. So yeah, we've had a few. I don't know if you played when Michael Paulo was with him, and a few of our good friends.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So So I mean, we were blessed to have him. Actually, at one of our other shows, Jackie Bertoni's show, he went to Jackie's home to do the interview, and we went right there, and he was just that patented smile, man, always warms your heart every time you see it. So it's amazing. Yeah,
he could light up a room with that. Yes.
Well, since we're on that topic, you know, when you were doing gigs of your own, and then you were getting these musical director gigs, what did you like about the differences between the two, and what were some of the things that you thought I'd rather be on Al's tour versus my own, or I would rather be doing my own versus something with the Crusaders? You know, tell us about those kind of experiences, the differences between the artist and a music director.
Yeah, I had already launched into my solo career with the release of the Genie, which came out in 77 or 78. And that was the beginning of my relationship with Capitol Records as well. And then just kind of out of the blue, in the early 80s, they decided that they didn't want to have a jazz division anymore. So all of us who were signed on the roster were just pretty much set adrift.
Wow.
It was kind of cool, because we had people like Caldera was there, and Eddie Henderson, Nancy Wilson. It was a really good roster of people. And they decided they just wanted to support rock and roll and, you know, the things that they figure were the biggest money makers. And so they cut the jazz division. And, you know, as a musician.
Hello, you there?
So it was at that time that I was in position to take these musical director jobs.
Yeah, yeah.
And the good part of working with so many good singers was I was able to sharpen my skills as an accompanist. And that's a lot different from when you're being the lead instrument and you're out front and the rest of the band is supporting what you do. So when you're in someone else's band, whether you're just a regular sideman or the musical director, you are accompanying that singer or that artist. And so that's a skill set all of its own. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to work with these people, you know, with Al Jarreau and Bette Midler and Nita Baker and George Benson. And I was able, to see what the people at this top level of the industry, how they function, how they handle their business, how they presented their performances night after night, and to bring a freshness to the tunes that you play so many times, to continually bring a freshness to it. That's a skill, and I was glad I was able to observe all of that, so that when I went back to being an artist, I was that much more inspired and motivated.
That is definitely a good breakdown of what the differences are, because a lot of people don't realize that, when you are your own artist, you get a chance to just do whatever you want to do. But when you're playing for somebody else, you've got to learn how to make it about them, and that's a little bit of a tougher gig for a lot of folks. And did you ever find that you get a chance to, were there times with some of these different artists that you were allowed to be more expressive of who you are versus what was on the record or what had previously been done? Or did you find most of the time that you were just doing exactly what was on the charts, or what was it?
No, there was definitely room to expand it a little bit in the live performance. And sometimes I got to actually solo during the course of the show. And so that made it a lot more interesting than just being an exact imitation of what was on the record. Yeah. Especially with someone like Jarreau, he was such a musician himself that he allowed certain of us in the band to just kind of do our thing at different points during the show. And I certainly appreciated that, because, it let me know that he was very aware and respectful of the fact that he had that quality of musician that he could just turn loose every once in a while. Yeah. And so that made it fun.
I would imagine so. I mean, like I said, I only got to experience, the time with Al. That was literally right before it was the last interview he did, and he's just so fun. And I could imagine the tours would be just like that as well. Just just a great time and a great experience through all of them. You know what?
Oh, it was, and it was my first time getting to travel in Europe was actually with Jarreau. So I appreciated that world travel aspect of doing his gig as well.
Yeah. We're going to go back a little bit farther back, man. You were scheduled to do, if I read my info right, you were scheduled to do a project with Jimi Hendrix. You guys were going to do a jazz rock project, and obviously right before he passed away. What was it like to work with Jimmy and the pandemonium that was happening and all the things that were going on? How was that experience for you?
Well, it was kind of crazy. But my association with him came through a friend of mine back from Minneapolis days that knew Jimmy, and he got Jimmy to fly us all to New York to hang out with him and do a little jam session, because he was strongly thinking about changing the elements of his band, and he wanted more jazzy elements in the band, as well as the blues and the rock that he was already doing. So he liked the sounds that he was hearing from us. And, of course, we were ready to go and start rehearsing like immediately, but he was really busy at the time finishing the album called Band of Gypsies with Buddy Miles and Billy Cox. So he couldn't really do anything until he finished that. And plus he was going to go to Europe to handle some business over there. But he pretty much promised us once he got back from Europe that he would be ready to start rehearsals and get this new super jazz rock fusion band going. And of course we were all tremendously excited about it. But as fate would yeah, as fate would have it, however, he never made it back from Europe and died of an overdose over there. But just the idea that it was potentially going to happen, that was a big thrill for us. And I think we would have been a good influence on Jimmy as well, because, you know, none of us was really into that heavy drug scene. So it would have worked on many different levels. But, you know, fate is what it is, and it'll make things happen that no one plans on happening.
Yeah.
And he was just another illustration of one of our really great artists who left us well before their time, you know.
Yeah, definitely the case. Did you guys ever get any recording at all done, or it was just jam?
No, we never got to do anything besides the jam session. But I was looking forward to all of that, recording live shows, and it just wasn't in the cards to happen. So, you know, we all kind of moved on in our what we were doing, and I continued to pursue my direction as a solo artist. I think it was another 6 or 7 years before I was finally able to score that contract with Capitol Records.
Yeah, and I think in the 80s, they were having some financial challenges, so I think that's why they were looking at changing the roster a little bit. I can't, you know, I was just starting off in the business back then, and I just remember that it was such a dynamic time with you know, all the different types of music that was going on. Let's jump into that a little bit here. You know, the experience that you have now, and most artists now having to approach their careers as independent artists, because, well, let's face it, the need to have someone distribute your music now is just not needed. You can do that through so many other different ways, that the exact same channels that they use at this particular point. So your experiences now compared to then, what are some of the things that you like about now versus then, and vice versa?
Well, you know, the big thing back in the day, as far as getting with a major record label, was the fact that they had the machinery to guarantee that you would be distributed everywhere, both domestically and internationally. But in exchange, and they fronted you the money to do your project, you know, through your recording budget. But with the internet and all of that, the record companies suffered, and as you can see, there's not as many of them now as there was back in the day. So what that does, that forces we artists to be more entrepreneurial and, you know, kind of set up our own situations, which I did with New Warrior Music, which is my record label. And so I sell through CD Baby and Amazon and, you know, some of those internet affiliations. But so the only thing that I miss about the record labels, like I say, is that massive distribution machinery that they had.
Yeah, the promotional elements that
but,
come
you know,
with that. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, but they wanted to own your masters, though. And so the other good thing about being independent is that you don't have, you know, this big company trying to grab your masters, because they belong to me, and I can redistribute or reissue or do whatever I want to do with them.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said for that.
I think that's a Minneapolis thing. That was like Prince was one of the first ones that kind of come out to, you know, say, hey, I'm just gonna control everything myself. So kudos to Minneapolis for sparking all that fun stuff.
Oh yeah, well he definitely wanted to be in control of everything related to his career, and so he challenged Warner Brothers. There's only been a couple of people who really made major challenges like that Frank Zappa actually did it before Prince did.
That's true. That's true.
And so Prince got around it when they said, "Hey, you can't do such and such because you signed this contract." So he basically changed his name and said, "Okay, now I'm this person, so this person is not signed on your contract, so deal with it." And he found the loophole and he exploited it and was able to become independent, not only with his record production and record sales, but promoting his own concerts. And, you know, for the price of a ticket to a Prince concert, you would also get a free copy of his latest record.
Yeah. He was the first one that I know to do that.
Yeah, and which would work in the sound scans for Billboard magazine and still put up those big sales. So he was a very smart young man. I had the privilege actually of meeting him when he was a teenager, and he and Morris Day and all those guys were rehearsing in North Minneapolis down someone's basement. And a friend of mine took me to one of their rehearsals. And so that was my initial meeting with Prince. And he was very shy and very quiet. But one thing I noticed in their teenage band was that they were not doing cover tunes. Everything that I heard that night was original music, and it was new, and it was their own kind of funky groove, you know, that the beginnings of what people eventually called the Minneapolis sound. And so before I left, I remember telling all those young guys, please keep doing the original material because that's what's going to make you stars.
Wow.
And I guess you didn't have to be Nostradamus to predict that, but I did predict it. And sure enough, 2 or 3 years later, he was signed with Warner Brothers.
So was Owen working with him at that particular time, or was that before Owen, his manager at the time?
I think, I'm not sure exactly when he became involved, but it was somewhere around that same time period that he was getting ready to do the Warner Brothers thing.
Yeah. And
so he, Owen, I guess, was really his first manager.
Yeah, he was the one who discovered him, and I think when he was 16 is what I heard, or maybe closer to 18. I think they said he got his contract when he was 16, but he was actually 18. No,
he got the contract when he was almost 20. I think there was some kind of way he was making himself younger than he actually was.
Yeah, to kind of keep excitement.
I know for a fact he was 16 when I met him, and he was at least 2 or 3 years away from signing that first deal. So he was late teens, pushing up on 20.
Did you ever come back around and run into him again and talk about that time, or was that that one time you go, this guy's? There's something about these.
No, we never encountered after that, except when I was musical director for Bette Midler. We did about a 30-day run at Radio City in New York City,
mm-hmm.
and the guy who did the house sound for us, he would tell me on 2 or 3 different occasions, Prince would come in and be all, with a big floppy hat on and a big coat so nobody recognized him. And he would sit at the sound table and watch the show. And then about 10 or 15 minutes before the end of the show, he would just get up and duck out the side door and disappear. But I know I used to play a club in New York, and not in New York, in Minneapolis, called the Blue Note.
Yeah.
And in the summertime, it would get hot, and we would leave the back door open. And if you were standing on the sidewalk, the back door opened right up on the bandstand. So I know a lot of times he and his friends would be standing out there watching us play, you know.
That's amazing.
So it was
amazing. You never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
Coming up in this business. So I one of the things you guys should take away from this is always be kind to people, because you never know when that Bobby Lyle will jump into your life, or that Prince will, be somebody that go, wow, he might be something someday. So that's definitely a testament.
Well, and it just illustrates that everybody, including all the greatest artists throughout music history, everybody is influenced and encouraged by somebody.
Yes.
You know.
Well, we all are people, for sure. Obviously, you influenced Prince, because there's you wouldn't be in people in Minneapolis at that time would not have been influenced by you. We've only got a couple of minutes left. I want to give a shout out for that show that's going to be happening. It's going to be at the Catalina Jazz Club. It's tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. and the doors open at 7 p.m. People do not miss it. If you're going to be in the LA area, go out and check this show out. It's only $35, so that's like what, like two Starbucks cups of coffee nowadays. So
yeah, nowadays, and you get to see two different bands.
Exactly, two amazing groups. My one of my best friends, Bunny Brunell, and my sister for sure is Kayleen Peoples, and it's going to be an incredible night of just amazing jazz from so many different levels. And I want to wish you a great show. I would love to have you back on the network to expand upon your career. And I mean, we basically touched like maybe a pinky nail of what you've done. So,
yeah, it's been a long ride, but a fun ride, and we'll do it again sometime. Okay.
Sounds good. Bobby Lyle, folks, this has been the Changing Stage radio show on EnterTalk Media. You're into all things music, or actually, we like to say nowadays, connect to all things music. Make sure you stay tuned for our next show that will be happening on Friday with May the Best Brand Win. And of course, go to entertalkmedia.com to check out any of the latest episodes that have come out. We had a great episode with Making It Today, and one of the fun ones we had recently was with Al Schmidt, who is just talk about your incredible engineer. So there is that music.
Fabulous.
There's that music. Well, Bobby, have a great show. We'll definitely be in touch. I'll connect to you through Kayleen.
Thank you. She'll definitely hook it up.
Sounds good. You take care. Bye now.
All right. You too as well. All right. Bye-bye.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on EnterTalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable. Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?